This is my ranking of every Mario Party minigame.
The game, Mario Party 1, not the entire series. Usual reminder, this is purely my opinion and no one else's. I'm speaking for just myself.
And I judge minigames based on how fun, challenging, and replayable they are, along with their concepts.
That said, let's go. The worst Mario Party 1 minigame is a tie between all the control stick rotating minigames, specifically free-for-all castaways, 1v3s paddle battle and tug-of-war, and solo pedal power. I'd bet money you all saw this coming. Mario Party 1 gained quite a bad reputation for giving players blisters, which were caused by these four minigames. In castaways, each player must cast fishing hands to grab volleyballs named Wilson, kidding, coins, and reel them back in. In paddle battle, each side must row faster than the other side to avoid Shy Guys. Tug-of-war is self-explanatory, and in pedal power, the player must cycle on a stationary bike to power a light bulb and scare a big boo away, all by rotating the joystick as fast as possible. Honestly, the only reason these minigames suck is because of how crappy the N64 controller's joystick is, even disregarding the blisters. Every time you play one of these four minigames, you run the risk of damaging your controller. If it wasn't for this simple fact, these minigames probably wouldn't be so close to the bottom of the list. Some may say it's not fair to judge a minigame for something that's not its fault, but it's my list, so I can do whatever the hell I want. A few of these minigames do have good concepts, especially pedal power, but you have to play them at your own risk of damaging your controller, so it's really not worth it. At least to me it's not. 46. Tightrope Treachery. The lone players walking on a, hence the name, tightrope, and the team players, each with their own little battleship, must shoot cannonballs at the lone player in an attempt to make him/her fall off before he or she reaches the finish line. However, he or she has the most generous time limit in the world, and since their controls are quite wonky, it's hard for the team players to aim their shots. Basically, if you get this minigame on a board and you're the lone player, congratulations, you pretty much automatically win 10 coins. 45. Slot Car Derby. All four players are racing on a racetrack and must drive by holding the joystick down. However, when turning, they have to let go of the joystick, since going too fast on turns causes you to spin out, which will make it easy for the other players to pass you. Constantly having to tilt and release the joystick feels kind of awkward, and even disregarding that, the controls are also really simplistic. So, although it is a racing game, which I usually love, Slot Car Derby sucks. 44. Bumper Ball Maze. So we all know and love bumper balls, but do you remember this version where you play by yourself and try to make it across a long, narrow path? If you like a really good challenge, this version of bumper balls might appeal to you, but as much as I do love a good challenge, this one is way too hard, for one, and two, it's a solo version of a really fun free-for-all minigame, so naturally, it's not gonna stack up well. In my opinion, most Mario Party minigames are more fun when there are more players. 43. Pipe Maze. All players are standing under several pipes that are arranged into a maze, and the lone player must pick one of the slots to put a treasure chest through. The player standing under the slot that the chest ends up falling through wins. Although not entirely luck-based, since the camera does pan across the maze to show you what it looks like, it pans pretty fast, so it's hard to keep track of which slot leads to which player. I suppose it is cool how the lone player can choose to help another player out if he or she wanted to, but still, I could live without this minigame. 42. Slot Machine. The name is all you really need to understand this minigame on a basic level. You're just trying your luck on a slot machine. That's it. Not only is this one completely luck-based, but there's nothing special about the concept, because, you know, it's just a regular slot machine. Talk about unoriginal. And luck-based minigames? Pfft, hate them. 41. Limbo Dance. There's a bunch of limbo sticks, which you have to, of course, keep jumping under. If you hit even one of them, you lose. And as you proceed, the sticks get lower and lower, so it gets harder and harder. But despite that, I'm not crazy about this one. I just find it kind of boring, that's all. Well, I'll also say, the concept is pretty uninspired. Could be worse, but could be a lot better too. 40. Coin Shower Flower. The lone player's running around on a huge moving flower, which coins will rain down on. Any that he or she missed will fall down in the water, giving the team players a chance to nab them. The problem with this is, not only does the lone player have dibs, but the coins take pretty long to fall off the flower, and on top of that, even if they do fall off, they don't take very long to sink, so the team players can't get them easily. In a nutshell, this minigame is broken in the lone player's favor. 39. Basketball. You can probably tell what this minigame is just from its name. Two teams of two play basketball, but with, instead of a ball, of a bomb, and the first team to score a basket wins. I don't have anything against basketball as a sport, but this minigame is just short. Really short. And I'm not even exaggerating. Most times, it only lasts like 5 seconds. So, though not the worst minigame of all time, it's still subpar at best. I'm sure I'd like it more if it weren't so short. 38. Crane Game. The team players are plush dolls, and the lone player, using a crane, must grab either one of them or one of the other items, being careful to maintain their grasp, since the team players can try to wiggle free. If the lone player succeeds in catching one of them, they'll steal that player's coins. This minigame is kind of sadistic. Instead of having to go after all three, the lone player can choose only one team player, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of it being a 1v3. Some might like how it lets the lone player pinpoint a specific team player, but not me. 37. Wacka Plants. Here, you're standing atop several pipes, out of which Piranha Plants will emerge, and you have to stomp as many of them as you can. And that's it. I wouldn't call this minigame unfun or anything, but there's just not much going on. And there's a bigger issue. If you get this minigame on a board, you're pretty much set to win, because you get one coin for each Piranha Plant you stomp, and since there's a whole lot of them, it's a really easy way to get a lot of coins. Talk about unbalanced. 36. Ghost Guess. The player is surrounded by a circle of moving boos, who will make several movements in a certain order while closing in on the player. Said player must pay attention to them and figure out which one is moving first, punch that boo, and get its treasure chest. Doing so means he or she wins, but if he or she hits the wrong boo, or if the boos completely close in, he or she loses.
This one's not too bad, but just a tad boring.
All you do is watch a bunch of boos dance, and while it can be challenging to find the one that's moving first, that just isn't enough to make up for its boringness.
35. Buried treasure. The players are underground and must dig around in search of a treasure chest. The first player to find it wins. Although there are arrows to point you in the right direction, the chest can be anywhere, and if you're lucky, it might even be right near where you start. And the operative word there is lucky. This minigame does involve some level of luck, which drags it down for me. But even so, it's not all bad. It is kind of fun. 34. Tipsy Turny. Each player has their own covered grid with a Koopa shell, and they must run around on it to clear out the covering tiles and reveal a picture. The first player to completely uncover their picture wins. There's not much to this minigame. It's just nice and simple, and a little fun, I guess. That's all I got. This one's just decent. That's all I can say. 33. Musical Mushroom. You know that party game Musical Chairs? This minigame is pretty much that, except replace the chairs with, I think, mushrooms, one of which has a treasure chest floating above it, and you probably know what happens next. Music will start playing, and when it stops, the players must race to get the treasure chest. The first player to do so wins. This one is quite fun, and although the concept may be unoriginal, I still think it's a clever spin on musical chairs. 32. Crazy Cutter. Each player has their own jackhammer, which they must use to cut fossilized enemies out of the ground. The more accurately you cut, the more points you'll score, and if you reach a minimum of 80 points, you win. The gameplay is fun, but what kind of brings it down for me is that it's way too easy for it to be a tie. It would be better if only the player with the most points won, but I still like it though. 31. Grab Bag. Each player has their own bag full of their coins. They have to try to get behind opponents and grab and shake their bags to steal coins from them. While I think this minigame's concept is very clever and unique, it just seems a bit too no-holds-barred. By that, I mean it's too easy to gang up on particular players, because your coins in this minigame apply directly to your coins on a board. In other words, it can have major effects on boards, which just doesn't seem fair. 30. Bash and Cash. The lone player, wearing a huge Bowser suit, must run away from the team players who have hammers. If he or she gets hammered by a team player, he or she will lose coins, which team players will be able to steal. I will say, it is pretty fun to beat other players senseless with hammers, but even despite that, this minigame seems kind of unfair. It's way too easy for the team to gang up on the lone player, so it could be a bit better, but it could be a lot worse too. 29. Ground Pound. There are several tree stumps, some sharp, others flat. After a few seconds, they'll be covered by butterflies, at which point you must ground pound all the flat stumps. If you do so before time expires, you win. The only bad thing about this minigame is that you don't have a lot of time to memorize which stumps are which, but the keyword in that sentence is memorize. I love memory testing games, and this is just a nice and simple one. 28. Mario Bandstand. In this symphony orchestra, one player's the conductor and the other three each have their own instrument. The conductor must conduct and the bandmates must play their notes, all with good timing. The player who hits the most notes with the best timing wins. This one's quite good, since I love games that require good timing. The concept is kind of but that's no big whoop. 27. Deep Sea Divers. Each team has one diver and one boat driver. The divers must dive underwater, get treasure chests, and swim them back up to the surface while the boat driver reels them in to speed them up. Doing so grants that team coins. I just find this one quite fun. I'll be honest, it's more fun for the divers, but either way, I can still have a good time when playing this minigame. 26. Bumper Balls. All four players are rolling on balls, which they must use to run into and knock opponents off the island. The last player standing, or should I say, rolling, wins. This one is nice and simple and can even be thrilling, but it almost always tends to end in a tie, since the platforming is so basic. I know a lot of people love this one, and heck, some even deem it their favorite, but personally, I think it's overrated. 25. Hot Ba-Bomb. All four players stand in a circle, or, I guess, square, and must pass a lit Ba-Bomb back and forth to one another. The player holding it when it blows up loses. This one is really fun and nerve-wracking with a clever concept, although I don't like how one player loses instead of one player winning. I'm not sure if I'm alone on that or not, but I don't really care. It just seems wrong to me that only one unlucky player loses while the other three get off scot-free. That's not what Mario Party is supposed to be about. 24. Balloon Burst. Each player has their own Bowser balloon, which they must keep inflating with pumps until they burst. The first player to pop their balloon wins. This one is nice and simple, but at the same time, frantic and very fun. It doesn't have much in terms of concept, since, you know, you're just inflating a balloon until it pops. But with how chaotic it is, that's no biggie. I don't want to burst your balloon. 23. Coin Block Blitz. There are 9 coin blocks which players must keep hitting to get coins, I'm pretty sure. Sorry, that's it. So you know Mario, right? The guy who runs around all these crazy worlds hitting blocks? The point I'm trying to make is, this minigame's concept is very original, and I respect the heck out of that. It's also nice and simple, and just plain fun. 22. Knock Block Tower. Here, you're faced with a tower made of wooden crates and thwomps. What you have to do is jump and break all the crates so you can reach the treasure chest at the top. If you do so, the coins in it are as good as yours. But if you hit a thwomp by mistake, you lose. This one takes good timing, and like I've said, I love minigames like that. And this one is, again, nice and simple, and maybe a bit easy, but still fun. 21. Box Mountain Mayhem. As the name suggests, there's a mountain made of boxes. The players have to keep breaking them to get the coins inside. However, some of them are actually crazy crates, which, if you've played Mario 64, you know what'll happen if you touch. You'll get thrown back like a ragdoll. This one is hectic, frantic, chaotic. Some other synonym for crazy. And therefore, insanely fun. And side note, getting to hit stuff is a riot. 20. Keep Away. This minigame is labeled as a free-for-all, but it's really more of a co-op one. The players, one of them carrying a huge key, and all of them being chased by several Spike Koopas, must work together to get the key to a door at the other side of the room, trying their best to keep it away from the Spike Koopas. If they do so, they win, but if a Spike Koopa gets a hold of the key, they lose. A free-for-all that requires teamwork. How unique. I also love how you can pass the key to other players. What an amazing concept. 19. Skateboard Scamper. All 4 players are skateboarding across a dungeon, with the ground crumbling behind them and several thwomps blocking their path. The first player to reach the finish line wins. Try and guess how I feel about this one. I mean, it is a racing game, so it's fun, thrilling, on toe keeping, and the concept? Epic. It does kind of suck how, even if everyone appears to be tied, it's impossible for the minigame to end in a tie, but that's no deal breaker. 18. Coin Block Bash. This one's really similar to Coin Block Blitz. There are 9 coin blocks which players must keep hitting to get, coins, I think? But this time, one player's got a hammer, which makes it way easier to smash blocks. And bonus, they can also use it to hit other players. And second bonus, players can also steal the hammer. Because of the hammer, 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 hammer. I'm hammering you! This is a much more fun and thrilling version of Blitz. 17. Treasure Divers. This one's kind of like a free-for-all version of Deep Sea Divers. The players must dive underwater, get treasure chests, and swim them back up to the surface. Doing so grants players the coins inside. And did I forget to mention, you have to watch out for a shark and bloopers. Because of that, I overall prefer this one to Deep Sea Divers, because it makes it more challenging, on toe keeping, and therefore fun. 16. Shell Game. There are 4 Koopa Troopas, each with a treasure chest, one of which is loaded with coins. The Koopas will shuffle around, and of course, your job is to keep track of the one with the coins. And once they stop moving, point it out. If you do so, the coins are all yours. To win this one, you have to pay close attention, and as I established, I love games like that. Also, it's just nice and simple. It's also a pretty decent challenge. 15. Memory Match. The player is standing atop several cards with different Mario items on the downward sides, and what you have to do is keep ground pounding them until you flip up 2 that match. And side note, watch out for the Bowser one. If you find all 4 matching pairs before time expires, you win. Not only is this one nice and simple, but it also tests your memory, and I love memory testing games. It is pretty easy, but that's no big deal. 14. Teetering Towers. The player must jump from one collapsing tower to another until he or she reaches the end of the path. If he or she falls even once, the minigame is over. Because of that, this one is quite challenging, and as you should know by now, I love a good challenge. I will say the controls are a little janky, which is another reason why it's so challenging, but it's not that big of a hindrance. This minigame also has an interesting, unique, and very epic concept. 13. Piranhas Pursuit. The lone player is skateboarding, and the team, riding a rain cloud, must keep ground pounding it to water and speed up a piranha plant. If the lone player gets to the finish line, he or she wins, but if he or she gets caught by the piranha plants, the team wins. A lot of people hate this minigame because it's a really easy win for the lone player, and while I do think that's a fair argument, this minigame is a guilty pleasure for me because the gameplay is so fun for the lone player. Sorry, not sorry. 12. Facelift. An altered model of Bowser's face will be shown, and each player must alter the facial features of their own model to try and match the given one. The player whose model looks the most like the given one wins. This one is just plain fun, with a funny, clever, and original concept. You know, Mario 64's title screen? It would be better if you could play with more faces than just Bowser's, but that's the only mad thing about this minigame, otherwise it's great. 11. Hot Rope Jump. All 4 players must keep jumping over a jump rope made out of lava bubbles. Any player who makes 20 successful jumps wins, while anyone to get hit by a lava bubble loses. This is another nice and simple one, but is funner and more thrilling, nerve-wracking, and challenging, especially when the rope speeds up. I think I would like it more if, instead of having to make a certain amount of successful jumps, you just had to keep jumping until only one player is left standing, but even so, it's still a great minigame. 10. Shy Guy Says. The players are floating in barrels and each have 2 flags. The nearby Shy Guy will hold up one or both of his own flags, and the players have to hold up the flag or flags that match the color of Shy Guy's. If you fail to do so, Shy Guy will cut your barrel loose, and the last player standing wins. This one takes razor-sharp focus and reflexes, especially as it progresses, since it, in doing so, speeds up. And you know what that means, good challenge. 9. Platform Peril. Do you know what Mario's alias used to be? If not, it was Jumpman. And just observe this minigame for a second. What are the players doing? Jumping across a long course full of moving platforms. If you fall even once, you lose, and if you reach the finish line first, you win. What can I say about this one? Nice and simple, yet still on toe-keeping and nerve-wracking, or to sum it up in one word, fun. Very fun. And I guess the concept is kind of original. 8. Bowl over. The team players are bowling pins, and the lone player's got a Koopa shell, which he or she must throw, trying to hit as many bowling pins as possible. If the shell hits any team players, they'll lose coins, which will go to the lone player. I'll be honest, I feel like the lone player has a bit of an unfair advantage, but even so, I still find it really fun and nerve-wracking. I also love the unique and funny concepts. It's also cool how the lone player can pinpoint a specific team player. 7. Desert Dash.
Skis donned, each team must move their connected legs in unison to proceed along the path, being careful to avoid the thwomp.
The first team to reach the finish line wins.
This one's a nice and simple race, and for some reason, just plain fun and requires teamwork, which you should also know how much I love in video games.
And I mentioned it's a race, right? And I also mentioned I love racing games, right? Sorry, I don't have the best short-term memory. 6. Hammer Drop. The players are running around on a small tower onto which a hammer bro, and a cloud. If you want to be a Lakitu, you be a Lakitu, buddy. We'll throw both coins and hammers. Obviously, you want to get the coins and avoid the hammers, since if you fall off the tower even once, you're done. No second chances. This one is insanely fun due to how hectic, chaotic, and especially thrilling it is. And the concept is pretty epic too.
5. Handcar Havoc. Both teams must pump their handcars as fast as they can and turn to avoid falling off the track,
because if they do, they lose right there.
all to reach the finish line before the other team. The team that does so wins.
Duh, statement of the day.
I love racing games. I also love button mashing ones.
It's not challenging per se, maybe just a bit tiring, but with how incredibly fun it is, that is of no matter. 4. Bombs Away. The players are on a small island and must run and jump to avoid the cannonballs being shot at them by Bowser's pirate ship. Failing to do so results in elimination, and any player to outlast their opponents or the timer wins. This one is really fun, thrilling, and on toe-keeping, with an epic concept. It's also a pretty good challenge, since you don't have a lot of space, and if you get bombed even once, you're done, no second chances. I also love how you can mess with your opponents by stomping on their heads. 3. Bob Sled Run. Each team has their own bobsled, which they must race across a long, icy track. The first team to reach the finish line wins. But it's not quite that simple. Some parts of the track don't have boundaries, which means you could fall off, which means you lose. No second chances. In simpler terms, this minigame is a good challenge. There are also dash panels, which, if you touch, will give you a speed boost. And I'm not positive about this, but I'm pretty sure I love racing games. 2. Running of the Bulb. Just like Keep Away, this minigame is labeled as a free-for-all, but it's really more of a co-op one. The players, one of them carrying a big light bulb, and all of them being chased by a huge boo, are running through a dungeon filled with smaller boos and some thwomps. While the other 3 fend off the boos, the player with the bulb must get it to the machine at the end of the room before the big boo catches them. This minigame is very unique because it requires excellent teamwork. And side note, I love how the boos can possess players and make them try to give the bulb to the big boo. What an amazing concept. All around, this minigame is epic. 1. Mushroom Mix-Up. The players are standing atop 7 hexagonal platforms, each with a different color. The nearby toad will hold up a sign, and the players must get on the platform that matches said sign's color, since all the other platforms will lower into the water. Any player who fails to do so will fall in the water and lose, and the last player standing is the winner. Players can jump and ground pound, making it easier for them to get and stay on the designated platforms. And like in Bombs Away, it also allows you to mess with your opponents. Also, as the minigame progresses, the platforms speed up, making things harder, funner, and on toe-keepinger. For those reasons, Mushroom Mix-Up is easily my number 1 favorite Mario Party 1 minigame. I hope there's no mix-up here. Yes, I know, that sucked.
So there you have it.
My ranking of every Mario Party 1 minigame.
For more videos like this, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, please check out my social media. All links are in the description. Thank you for watching.
See you in the next one. Mikoro out.